synthesize, but at the end of the day, we have to recognize like, okay, is this my ego or is this my higher self? Is this my survival mechanism telling me, giving me boundaries, or am I just scared? And we have to learn the difference. And I wish I could tell you what the difference is, and I can't do that. But what I can tell you is that your higher self or God speaking to you or through you is very clear and very direct. So my current thing is I've had this feeling within the next 5 years you will be living somewhere completely different. But every year that goes by, it's gone down from in the next 5 years you're going to do this. And then it's in the next 2 years you're going to do this. And now that goal is within the year, you're going to quit your job and you're going to start from scratch. And I'm terrified. I'm like, I can't quit my job. I've been working for like 6 years. Like, how can I quit my job? We're working at the same place for 6 years. I've been building up, working for the man. Building a nice set of skills, which is what I wanted. But now I'm like, all this energy that I'm putting into this job, I could be putting into my own, whatever it is. I have so much energy that I expend for other people. I could still expend the energy for other people, but it could benefit me more as well, which therefore would benefit other people more. Excuse me. So, what part of me is the ego and what part of me is the higher self? Well, the part of me that's the ego is saying, you need this amount of money to let go of the job. Before you let go of the job, you need to fix these relationships. Be careful because you don't want to burn bridges because these people are petty. So it's like my protection, the protection part of myself is yelling at me like, do it this way. So now my ego is now recognizing that I'm so serious. So now it's like mediating this transition. It's like, okay, don't make any rash decisions because I really want to make a rash decision really bad. Don't make a rash decision. You have to do it in this way. You have to have this kind of amount of money. You have to have this plan. I like all of these things, but it's me saying it's me talking to myself. You need to do this. You need to do that. But my higher self was like, but within 1 year, bitch. And it's cussing at me too. I'm cussing at myself like, bitch, think I'm playing. You will start from scratch. And whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. And you better be prepared. So I'm like, okay. So that's what I'm doing. So how do you combat that? How do you manage this part of yourself that's terrified and this part of yourself that's so sure? And the only way to manage it is to live in the present. This is what Oprah was saying 10 years ago. I didn't understand it. The only way to manage those two things is to live in the present because that's literally what exists. That's literally what's real right now is what's happening to you right now. So go about your business and live in the now. So how do you live in the now? Well, you can meditate. Unfortunately, that's the best way. You can exercise. You can, whatever brings you to right now, do that. In terms of my work, I'm trying not to think about my past. I'm not trying to think about a future job. Actually, I don't have one. That's my thing. So I'm forced to work in the now. I'm forced to focus on what I can focus on right now because I know that there's nothing else coming. And whatever else is coming is so vague that I can't plan for it. And to a certain extent, that's how it's supposed to be. What do you think? Did I make any sense? Email me, host@centersun21.com with your thoughts, or you can tweet me at centersun21 on Twitter. How do you balance your ego? Are you aware of the parts of yourself that may be there for your survival only and not for your guidance? Like, have you been able to sort it out? Can you sort it? I can't. But I think, but I still believe, clearly was eating breakfast right before this, but what do you think? I'm kind of just like a stream of consciousness, just like talking at this computer right now. But I feel like it's important because with so much going on in the world, and we'll get into that just a moment, because we got to talk about the midterm elections. With so much going on in the world, we're barreling towards this date, this monumental date. But the best thing we could do in order to combat those feelings or that fear inside of us, the best thing we can do is just live right here in the now. Like, literally. And I feel like when we do that, everything will fall into place. And that the powers that be, good or bad, will resolve. It'll resolve. Whatever's bad will resolve, because I think there's enough of us that are good, and not good in the duality, not good in the sense of duality, like, oh, you're going to hell, you're going to heaven. No, good like for the good of all, like for the edification of our species. Like, literally, I feel like whatever will happen is probably going to be for the good of our species. So, have you registered to vote? If not, it's too late. Have you voted early? Hopefully you did. If not, it's too late. I will be voting on election day. That's my little tradition. I vote in every election, so you probably don't. If you're listening to this, you probably don't vote every election, because most people don't. Only old people do, because they don't have anything else better to do, in my dumbass. So, stop calling yourself dumbass. And it's also me. But actually, I'm going to get off of the news because NPR is already so fucking stupid. So NPR, okay. So on October 31st, NPR reported, their headline says, another civil war, pessimism about political violence deepens in a divided nation. See, these are the kind of things that I think that is, the division is being promoted. And I never fuck with NPR. So basically, the deadly synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the killing of 2 African Americans in Kentucky, and the wave of improvised explosive devices aimed at critics of President Trump all happened within the past week, quoted from NPR. They also go on to say that they all coincide with deep national pessimism about the outlook for peaceful protests in the United States. Yeah, they're making us scared to protest. You know what? I'm not worried about it. We're going to protest. If you want to kill us, you can kill us. Racist people, what you do in the dark will come to the light. So you can do what you want, honestly. Because you can't kill all of us. So, I mean, there was somebody that was just hung in Missouri. I'm like, you can't kill all of us. You can try to pick us off one by one. Try to lock us up. 1 and 3. 1 and 3 is not enough. You can't kill us all. You can't lock us all up. We're not going to lay down. Sorry. And the more evil you do, the more you attack us and you try to suppress our voices, the more we will ascend. And not only ascend like in the physical realm, but in the spiritual realm too, because the power of Christ compels you. I'm sorry, the Christ consciousness compels you to step the fuck back. So in an effort to combat all of this weird energy that is coming from the world, I encourage you to express yourself. And that's really the point of this whole episode, is why is the ego important? The ego is your sense of self, is your personality. So I would say use it. Use it as an expression. If you're fearful, be scared. But put that fear into something creative. Like literally, it's so crazy. Use your brain to your advantage. If you're creative, use the creative part of you. If you're an organizer, use the organizing part of you. Lean into your strengths. If your strength is doing people dirty, then continue doing that and you will see what happens as a result. But it doesn't matter because we all, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And on Tuesday, I feel like will give us a better idea of what's going on in terms of how the world is shaking out. So have you seen these new MacBook Airs, though? Let me switch gears. Have you seen the new MacBook Airs? I want one so bad. But I already have a big-ass computer already, so I don't need it. But Popular Science, one of my favorite magazines, they reported that Tim Cook is extolling the virtues of the MacBook Air, calling it the most beloved notebook ever. So I feel like it's going to be, it's so weird to see like only 2 ports on a computer. But if I were to get one of the things that were announced, I would probably get an iPad Pro because I already have a full computer, so I would probably get a tablet. Now, the iPad Pros are looking real sexy with the Face ID and all that shit. Like, Face ID is my fave. And I don't even care about the Illuminati or whoever trying to take our faces. And, I don't even care. I love it. But what do you think? That does it for today's episode of Center of the Sun. Thank you for listening. Please email me your questions, host@centersun21.com, or you can tweet me at centersun21 on Twitter. How do you separate your ego? Do you know the difference between your ego and your higher self and the other parts of your consciousness? Do you believe that there are other parts of your consciousness? Do you even believe me? I like having conversations. I like researching, and I like talking about the power that's within that's inside of us. So if you ever see me on Twitter talking about, oh my gosh, you're so powerful inside of you, that's what I'm talking about, your consciousness. Even though people talk about our ego as a deficit or as a part of ourself that needs to be minimized, it shouldn't. It's just as valid as any other part. It's just like, it's the same thing as what we say. There is no one in this world that is unworthy. Just like our bodies, like there's no part of our body in our mind that is unworthy or needs to be decreased. You just have to recognize it as, you just have to acknowledge that it's as important as any other part of your body, and then you will start moving your thoughts around to support the fact that, like, no, bitch, like, even though my ego might overpower me, it's overpowering me for a reason, and I need to understand that reason. That's what I encourage you to look for. That's what I encourage you to think about moving forward in this week. Last week, we talked about perception. We talked about how Albert Einstein was right when he was, kind of theorizing that no, not only can nothing go faster than light, here's the actual way that I'm going to prove it. And his ego probably did tell him to stop. Like, no, bitch, everyone else is right. They can prove it. They got pictures and diagrams and things, and you got ideas in an equation. But his higher self, Albert Einstein's higher self, was like, no, but I'm right. And it wasn't about being right. It was about the process of finding what the real truth was, because in actuality, he was right and so were they, but they just needed to connect the ideas together. And that's what they did. It took us till 2015 to do it, or whatever year it was. But it was done. So it proves to me that it's not about the destination. destination. It's about the journey. It's not about decreasing one part of yourself. It's about acknowledging that all parts are equal, of equal importance. For instance, like I was telling my friend, he was talking about like, oh, I have like, you know, some people where I live, drinking is acceptable, socially acceptable. Coffee. When I drink coffee, I expect a jolt in my chest. Coffee. When I drink coffee, I expect in my chest.